Hey everyone. Okay, so today I'm just it's been a while since I've talked about expectations, and I was interviewed in a lady's Facebook group, and she is a parents of preschoolers coach. And so we had a really interesting talk, and it just got me thinking again how important expectations are and kind of worrying about what other people think. And it is difficult. I'll get into like different ways to practice not caring what other people think, but again, we always need why. In order for us to do something, believe something, understand something, the vast majority of us need to know why. It really gives us the motivation, the drive, the ability to care about what it is when we understand it. So, why do we want to really work on our expectations, and why we want to work on not caring what other people think? And I know most people, and especially women, we have with how we look, how we dress, all these things, body image issues, and people always say, "Well, stop caring what other people think," and stuff like that. But it's so much more than that. Even like in the interview, when we were talking about like parenting techniques, I have had over. Okay, so I have been a massage therapist for over 15 years, and I massage a ton of moms, a ton of grandmothers, lots of people from walks of life. But sorry, um, oh, that's just going to linger in there. Okay, I apologize. Uh, so anyway, and talking with all these parents, and of course I'm always talking, I was the deep tissue therapist, so really working out the stress, the knots, the tension, and all of that. And even back then I didn't understand that I was life coaching, but I would always um, talk with people and trying to alleviate some of the stress, because it all starts up here, right? It's all mindset. It's all about what's going on in our life, and it's when we cannot handle our stress in our life, and it translates into our bodies, and that's kind of where we store it. Instead of dealing with it and getting rid of it, we push it down, and it goes into our neck, our shoulders, our back, our glutes, etc. So I've always known that we need to deal with stress. So a little backstory of how I got into actually literally being a coach on stress management. But talking with all of these people, and I have heard some very interesting things over the course of my massage career. And it's these expectations. Like one of my clients had said one time, because she was super, super stressed, she was having trouble with all the kids' extracurriculars. I can't remember how many kids she had, at least two or three, and each kid was in like three or four extracurriculars. It was literally, we did the math. There was no way, with her and her husband driving separately, there was no way to get each kid to different things. They must have had three kids. Because, yeah, it was literally physically impossible for them to get all of these children to all of these events, etc. And so I remember, okay, let's brainstorm, because every problem has a solution. So let's find a solution that's going to help you not be losing your mind every day, worrying how you're going to get this done. And so I remember talking about, carpooling, because, sorry guys, my allergies are still just terrible. Um, I have again a ton of other clients that you get together with the mums, if your kids are soccer, football, hockey, basketball, whatever it is. You get together while kids are practicing, and you talk, and you work out a carpool schedule. And especially if kids, if they overlap in different sports together, okay, I'll take your kids to basketball on Tuesday, and then you can take all the kids to soccer on Thursday, or whatever it is, right? And I have a ton of parents that got this carpooling schedule fixed up, and then it was just done, and nobody had to worry. Everyone knew when and where they were driving, and everybody got to where they wanted to go. Seems simple, right? But for my other clients, when I suggested, like, is there, people you could carpool with? And she's like, no, I couldn't do that. Oh, okay. Why couldn't you do that? Oh, I can't just send my kids with other parents. Okay, why not? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but carpooling is a way of life when I grew up. It sounds like, the majority, I wouldn't say the majority, but I have a ton of clients that carpooling is still a way of life because literally, how else are you going to get everything done? We're not Superman. We can't go back in time. We can't be in four places at once. We're not time travelers. Like, right? And it was just, she was very stuck in this. Well, what kind of mom am I going to be if I just send my kids with other moms? A mom who wants to get her to her child's event on time, like, I don't know, a perfectly fine one. But she had it in her head that other people were going to judge her and other people were going to think she was a bad mom if she didn't personally drive each kid to each event. And let's be real here, guys. You have three kids, and let's say they all have extracurriculars all at the same time. There's two of you as parents. Like, are you just going to drop one kid off an hour early to an event and then leave them there by themselves where you go take it? Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, in having this story, this worry about judgment, worrying about what other people think, she has really hooped up her life pretty terribly. And since extracurriculars are every week, they're always um, right? Like, we are causing a massive amount of unnecessary stress just because she was worried what other people think. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just that is dumb. Like, you are being ridiculous. You need to get over it. Send that kid with a friend. Like, it's so simple. And I just want you to sit back and take a look at your life because it's a hard truth. Like, nobody wants to hear you are being dumb. Stop making your life more difficult than it has to be. Nobody wants to hear that. It's kind of, if that were me, and I have been told this before, like, don't get get me wrong or anything. I've been that person where it's like, you are being ridiculous. My boyfriend said that to me. You are being ridiculous. And when I actually take that step, you're like, the little voice in the back of your head's like, yeah, you are. So whether we admit it out loud or not, take that step back, actually listen to that little voice, reevaluate, and are you being silly in a few areas of your life? Are you causing yourself unnecessary stress because of expectations of society or a peer group you're in or like the PTA or whatever? I have referenced this movie before. I will reference it forever. I think it's amazing. Bad Moms. And the Christmas one is just as good. But this is the classic example. You know, just upending our lives, running around crazily, being super stressed over things that just don't have to be. The mom is doing her kid's science experiment report thing, whatever, this big paper mache head thing. Well, why isn't your kid doing that? It's his homework. Like, it's all these expectations of society that we put on ourselves. And it's just ridiculous, and it doesn't have to be that way. If you have not seen Bad Moms, you have to watch it. And I mean, it is a great movie. It's funny, but really take that lesson out of it. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, maybe just cover yours for a minute. But like, at the end of the movie, when the mums stop caring what all the other mums think, when they kind of get together and, oh, we're all bad moms, and they stop caring, everyone is so much happier. The son actually makes breakfast. Well, he was never allowed to make breakfast before because mom had to make breakfast, because what kind of mom will she be if she didn't make it breakfast for everyone? Like, she didn't allow her kids to even try and flourish or be creative, or like, did she even allow him to his own project, or was it just expected that mom did it due to previous actions and expectations of other moms, right? So it really is this, you know what? I'm not even sure what to call it. I was going to call it like cabal, like a big thing, a big cloud of, why are you doing it? Like, really, that's the biggest thing. Take that step back. If you're feeling really stressed, if there's something nagging at you that's like, hey, I don't know if this is right, this might be a little bit ridiculous, take that step back and actually ask yourself, why are you doing this? You know, why do you think you have to take your kid to every event? Oh, I'll be a bad mom if I'm not. Why? Says who? I think, you know what? You're probably a bad mom if you don't feed your kids for 4 days. That's probably a bad mom. You carpool your kid with someone else because you have more kids than you have vehicles to take them to places. How is that possibly a bad mom? And that is also the key. Keep asking yourself why. Oh, well, I'll be a bad mom. Why? Well, because I have to take my kids to places myself. Why? Well, because like keep asking yourself that question until you get to the root. Well, because my friend says or society says or people expect, like really get to that heart of it, that story you've attached to it. And it's probably going to be something silly. I'm not sure about this mom, but let's just say, oh, because all of my friends are able to take their kids to their events. Okay, how many kids do your friends have? Oh, they have one or two, so they don't have three. Do you think it's um, proper to have their expectations with their one child on you with your three kids? Their one child has two extracurriculars, your three kids each have three or four themselves. Like, right? Like, really get down to that nitty gritty of why, what that story is, and does that story actually make sense to you? Does it resonate with you, or did you just adopt it because you're supposed to? I love this one example of a lady I was working with, and we were talking about expectations, and I'm like, you really need to ask yourself why. Like, does it bring you joy? And you know what? Honestly, like if you show up for an event, I'm gonna say for most kids, just showing up and being there and being present and watching it for, at least half of the thing is gonna be far more meaningful than making sure you drive them there and drop them off type thing. So just really think about what those priorities are, how you actually want to show up for them, and maybe, pick, okay, do I clearly can't drive them and stay and do this and do that. So what's going to be most important? And honestly, even some kids don't even care if you stay. So even have a conversation with them to see what's most important to them, what will be most meaningful for them. Because again, if you're doing the things that they don't care about and you're not doing the things that are meaningful to them, then it's still not hitting the mark, right? So back to this lady. We were talking about things like this. She has two kids, her life, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like, where do you see yourself? What are your goals? And she's just like, I have no idea. And she had wanted to start the online business. I'm like, okay, well, why do you want that? She's like, well, because it's kind of like the next step. I had the kids, they're getting old enough, like it's time for me to start kind of working again. And I'm like, okay, do you want to start working again? Like, why did you decide that this is the time? And then we really got like digging into it, right? And she realized that her whole life was just what you're supposed to do. She graduated high school, she went to college, she got married, and she had her kids, and now she was re entering the workforce because you're supposed to. She's like, oh my God, I have never actually asked myself, what do I want? She had never in her life asked herself what she wanted in life. She just did the things she was supposed to do. It was like the biggest breakthrough. And like, yeah, I mean, for myself, I don't know, maybe I'm just super spoiled. I know I'm pretty spoiled, but maybe I've just always been super spoiled, and I've always had someone ask me like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want this? What Like, I have always had opinions, and I've always known things I want and don't want. And so to realize, even for me, it was a huge, breakthrough to realize that there's people out there that have literally never asked themselves what they want for their own lives, for their work, just for them. What do they want? And that's even, for her, kind of getting back to like, well, who are you really as a person? What do you like? What are hobbies? Like, do you like gardening? Do you like reading? And she actually had to, like, she's like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to really think about this. It was really pretty crazy. I mean, that's a really big example, but I still think that's such a great example of never taking the time to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Do you even want two kids, or did you just pop them out because society told you to? Do you want four? Did you want maybe one and now you have two, which is great because it is what it is and you'll raise them and love them anyways. But like, just really understanding that, like, why am I doing this? And I know because we had one of our friends who actually ended up getting pregnant because all of her other friends said, you can't have one child, you can't, do this, They need a friend to play with, which, by the way, if anyone ever tells you have a second child because they'll keep each other entertained, that's the biggest lie in the book. That never works out for everyone. I swear to God, they keep pandering this lie because misery loves company, and their house is chaos, so they want everyone else's house to be chaos. I swear to God. But that is time and time again, and just to continue on that thought process of, you end up having the second child. And I know, like me and my brother, that is typical. We're fighting, we're arguing, we're always yelling. We practically hate each other for the first 10 years of our lives, and maybe beyond that. Like, it's the ebb and flow, but usually siblings fight more than anything else. So here it is, now she's popped out this second kid because everyone told her she had to. She never wanted two kids. And then, well, it is what it is. And so that's not to say, having kids is ever um, a mistake. I don't believe in that. I believe all things happen for reasons and stuff like that. So that's a very large example. But it's that, really making sure, especially big life events like that, is this what you want to do? You're looking to move to the country. Do you literally want to live in the country? Especially I'm from Canada, from Alberta. You go live in the country, you're dealing with coyotes, possible wolves. If you have a garden, you might have to fence it off against the deer and the rabbits. Like, do you want to deal with all of these wild animals out in the country, feeling secluded? Is that what you really truly want? Or are you really a city person at heart and you're going to be miserable out there? But society has told you right now, living in the country is the thing to do. Everyone should have a homestead, blah, 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 whatever. Like, really evaluate why you're doing this. Or maybe do you just need to live in a small community, like what do they call those, estate or something, where you can have a giant backyard, but you're still surrounded by other houses, so you're not just out in the boonies by yourself. Like, every problem has a solution. But really ask yourself, because the last thing you want is to make this big life choice and then regret it or it not be what you want. You have to really know yourself and know what you want, right? And so really, again, ask yourself, because that's a really big stress. That's a big event you're going to have to deal with and find the solutions for. But I love taking it down, just the really easy peasy ones, just to scale it back and get on like the small little things. Like, I know people are at school, school's back and all that. So I don't know all the events kids have nowadays. There seems to always be something, but I know like Christmas, you have all the Christmas concerts, you have costumes that need to be made. I don't know if they still do bake sales at all these fundraising activities, Girl Guide cookies are being sold. Like, there's all of these different things. And a lot of parents get like roped into things because they feel they have to. It's expected of them. It's, oh, I'll look like a bad parent if, like, all these, right, expectations, judgments, things that we're worried about how other people feel. And I always use this example because I think it's a great one. I'll say Christmas cookies, it could be a bake sale, whatever it is, where whoever comes up and says to you, oh, can you please bake like 8 dozen cookies? We need them tomorrow or the next day or whatever. And the back of your mind, you're like, we don't have time for this. Don't do this. We don't want to bake any cookies. Don't do this. But you feel kind of guilty and you're like, oh, what are they going to think of me if I'm not participating? All of these other moms are participating, which, by the way, do you know their schedule? Maybe they have nannies that help them with the kids while they bake. Maybe they only work part-time and you work full-time. Like, don't take on everyone else's life and project it onto yourself and think you have to, as everyone else does. We all have our own stuff going on. So however busy you are, it doesn't matter what that busy is. If you don't have time, you don't have time, and you don't need to explain it to other people, right? So if you have that voice, like, don't do this. We're gonna regret it. And then you say yes because your fear of the judgment, you want to people please, like whatever that might be. You're going to be up at like midnight, hating the cookies, hating your kid because you're making the cookies for the kid, hating the PTA. You're literally just hating everybody. You're probably hating yourself and these stupid cookies. Or if it's one of those where you love baking cookies with your kids, this is something you really want to do. She mentions it, you actually kind of get excited. And maybe you're still up at midnight baking cookies, but you're doing it in a happy way because you actually enjoy it. You actually deep down want to do this thing. And it's not for anyone else, if that makes sense, right? So just make sure, again, like, why are you doing this? And make sure it's for a good reason. Um, Now, I know it can be tricky because everyone, well, how do you do this? And honestly, it is practice. It really is switching your mindset into that not caring mode. Um, I always like, honestly, I like the reward systems. I feel like they really do work. I always talk about how our subconscious is like a toddler, and toddlers love, they walk for the first time and everything's woo, they like anything they do, we're cheering and they're just so excited. Half the time they have no idea what they did. They're trying to figure out what they just did so they can do it again, so that they can get that applause and praise. And I'm sure you guys have seen, if you're on social media, there is always a meme somewhere that's talking about like there's no win too small. Celebrate everything. And that's because our little toddler brain does not distinguish between a big win and a small win. Clapping and excitement is clapping and excitement, right? It could be a little sprinkler, or a little one of those little sparklers you put in a birthday cake, or it could be like New Year's Eve fireworks. It's all exciting to our little toddler brain. So that's where I love the reward system. Celebrate everything. So every single time you sit and you're like, okay, why am I doing this? And you make the choice, the right choice. Like, let's say you tell the PTA, no, I don't have time to bake these cookies. And you're just like, oh my God, I did it. Like, celebrate that, get excited inside. Maybe later when you're not in front of everyone, you pat yourself on the back. I personally love like the check marks. I had one client, it worked really well for her. Every time she got the correct outcome, she did the thing she wants to instill as a habit. She would have a check mark. She would, of course, celebrate. She'd check it off on her little list. And once she got to 10, I can't remember if it was a Mani Petty combo. She got herself for a facial, so like she rewarded herself somehow. Maybe it's a movie night, whatever it is, find some sort of reward, something that you love. I would give myself extra reading time, or yeah, I'm going to watch an extra movie on Friday night or something like that. Whatever resonates with you and gets you excited. It has to be things you want, right? I will always recommend never have food as a reward system. We're just going to gain way too much weight and have another issue to deal with, or God forbid, become diabetic or something. Do not use food as a reward. It ends badly. Um, yeah, have that some sort of reward system. Another thing I really love, it's like also what I recommend for boundaries, when you want to put up boundaries, and this one is especially important when there's certain situations that happen a lot, or like that thing where I'm trying to get the right words for this, like not caring what other people think, to have this kind of standard approach to it, where I know for myself what are my go-to sayings, and whether I said it out loud or just said it in my head to reassure myself. Well, it's a good thing it's not your house, or well, it's a good thing you're not wearing it. Oh, well, it's a good thing it's not your clothes. Well, it's a good thing it's not your dog. Like all of these different things where it's mine, it's not yours. You hate it, you wouldn't do it that way. Well, that's okay because it's not yours, it's mine, that sort of thing. And now this can come off depending who you're talking to. Like when my mom would say something like, "Oh, I would never do it that way," and I would say, "Well, it's a good thing it's not yours, because it's my mom. We have that relationship. I can kind of joke around." If you have a stranger or someone, an employee or a client or something, and they're making an offhanded remark, it might not go over so well if you literally say, "Well, it's a good thing it's not yours." Like that might come across in a poor fashion. So that's one of those times where just say it in your head, good thing it's not yours, and then just carry on and be polite and maybe redirect the conversation or something. And the other thing, before I get to that technique, really keep in mind in the back of your head, keep that why there. Like, why are you doing this? Because your kids love it, you love it, it resonates better. You don't want to be like Sally Joe down the street or whatever it might be. Have that why. So when people question you, when people maybe have some sort of I don't want to say backlash, that's not the right word, but like pushback as to why you're doing or not doing something, or whatever choice you made, have that why ready, and you say it to yourself, or again, maybe you say it out loud, because my kid really loves it, that's why. And you have that, why, why are you sending, little Johnny with his friend to soccer today? You know what? It works out better for my schedule. He loves it and I love it. It's a win-win. Okay, like really remember that, because I'm alleviating a ton of stress and I need to do this because having my stress down makes me a better parent, and I need all of these different ways to alleviate my stress so I can be my best me and get out of that overwhelm and get out of that irritability that I'm constantly in. Like whatever that main why is, your motivator, always keep that in mind until it's just in there and it becomes second nature, and you can, you actually stop caring what these people are saying, or everyone's used to it, or whatever it might be. But another one, this one I love, and I do this for boundaries, is whatever the situation is. And let's say it's like you want to stand up to the PTA mom with the bake sales, or she's always asking you to do things or fundraise or whatever it is, and you want to say no. Or like similarly, you do something with your kid, those expectations, or you dress a certain way, or you decorate, whatever it might be, and you want to actually, like, someone's going to say something to me about this. How am I going to respond? So what you want to do is you want to write the situation out, and you want to write out, like physically write it out, the response you want. You know, keep in mind, we don't actually owe people explanations. It just goes over better. And again, we are nosy people, human beings. We're just nosy creatures, and we always want to know why. Like, what do we spend 2 years of our toddler days just following our parents around asking why, like chronically? This is just in our nature to want to know why. So that's why I do advise people to actually have some sort of explanation ready to go, because people do always want to know why. Um, but at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone that. I feel like it's just polite. It'll just help smooth things over. It'll help your habit be instilled, and there'll be less pushback if you can give a why. But at the end of the day, it's not 100% necessary, because it's nobody's real business. It's your life. So I'll just throw that out there. So I'm going to stick with we're giving someone a why so that they can understand, so that they can stop asking us and they get it. So you decide to start implementing something or stop doing something, because it's an expectation of neighbors or whatever. And okay, so the situation is going to come up, and you can write out exactly the appropriate response that you want to give. That thing where you're like, I wish I could just say no, or I wish I could just have an explanation here and people would leave me alone about it. Or like, come up, make sure your reason is in that, because again, we don't want to lie to people. Does it have to be the whole reason, the whole truth, whatever it is? Not necessarily, because again, it's nobody's business. But what is it? Write it out, what you would love to respond to that person or people or whatever when they ask you. It's like having your elevator pitch, write it out. And then what you're going to do is you're actually going to read this over every single day, and you're going to practice it, and you're going to rehearse it like an actor getting ready for a play. Because what that's doing is, the next time that situation comes up, you're getting pushback, someone says something, oh, you're sending that to school with your child or whatever. You could be like, yes, I am, because da 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 da. And whatever you've written out, the more we rehearse it, again, it's like that actor going on for a play. It becomes second nature to us. We know it by heart. We've said it 1,000 times, and because we've said it so often, it's 90% easier just to come out of our mouth when we actually want to say it. If we don't rehearse it, we can't remember what we actually want to say. Now we're trying to fumbling. Now we're getting nervous. Now we're forgetting, and all of a sudden we just don't do it. And it's just like, oh, you're right. I should. Oh, I'm so sorry. Or whatever old habit you'll fall back into. So I love having that, where you have some sort of script, something to prepare yourself that you can kind of rehearse. Even if it's like literally walking around saying no, getting used to the word no coming out of your mouth. Again, let's think of toddlers. Like, how often do they say no? Learning to just say that word and become comfortable with it. It's a lot. So if you have become uncomfortable literally just saying the word no, and people are out there, if this isn't you, know that there are literally people out there where it is a struggle. They almost feel sick. it is very, very difficult just to actually say that word no. So if this is you, start practicing that. Just start saying it and get used to just coming out of your mouth, and repetition, repetition, repetition. And that is all, forming a habit. It's just repetition for about 3 weeks to form that habit. It's doing it every single day consistently over and over and over and over again. That's all a habit is. So that's where we want to give ourselves these opportunities to assert um, the things we actually want to have happen, and get rid of those expectations and get rid of that caring what other people think. So again, it's for myself. When I first decided, like clothes, for example, I hate high-waisted pants. I think they're terrible. They really cut in my stomach. They're uncomfortable. I love low-waisted pants. They just feel comfortable to me. They fit my form better. They're my thing. I hate high-waisted. I hate them. So for like the last 15 years, the fashion has been these high-waisted jeans. It's been terrible. I basically haven't bought more than 3 pairs of pants in the last 15 years because I hate high-waisted jeans or pants, period, all of them. And when people would ask me about it, I had no problem telling them, like, oh, well, yeah, these are the same jeans since, 12 years ago because I can't find low-waisted jeans anymore. Oh, well, they have mid-rise. Yeah, I don't really like those either. They're not very comfortable. And I just explained, I don't like it. It cuts into my stomach. It's not comfortable. I don't think I look good. And then people are always like, oh, okay. They don't necessarily agree with it or accept it. Maybe they think I'm crazy and I should just buy new jeans because, I don't know, some people think you have to buy new clothes every month, whatever their belief is and their expectation. And that's fine. And they don't have to understand it. And I just like, because I hate high waisted jeans and I love my low rise pants, period. And you can think I'm weird. That's okay. You're not wearing them. And I would say that in my head, like, they're not wearing them. They're not the ones that are uncomfortable. And I'm like, do I love my low rise pants? Yes, I do. Do I find them very comfortable? Yes, I do. Am I happy with them? Yes, I am. And then all of a sudden I'm smiling and happy again, right? Like, just to go through that why. Why don't I buy these horrible pants? And the couple I bought, they sit in my drawer for years and I never touch them. And let's not even waste the money. That's the other thing too. Oh, I tried to wear them. I hate them. They sit in my drawer. I've wasted money. So I decided not to waste any more money, right? And just to know, again, it's always nice to have that so that you're not, have it kind of, again, I don't want to call it scripted because it sounds so terrible, but have it kind of scripted out, and then you can improvise when you're saying it, but at least you have the general idea and you've run through it and you kind of know that response. And for myself, again, I get those same questions over and over, and I give the same response to the next new person that would ask and the next new person, and I'd say the same thing over and over. And again, I was comfortable with that because I didn't care, because that was my response. It's not going to change. It is what it is. And I'll literally say the same thing. And then, yeah, so I think I would say getting that script script down, and practicing some good responses depending on the situation and the habit you want to change, and definitely getting comfortable writing out. And even if you have like affirmations in the mirror, I do what's best for me no matter what anyone thinks about it. I do what's best for my family no matter what anyone thinks about it, and repeat this over and over again. Because let's keep in mind also that the majority of people out there are raising their family, living their lives, doing the things they do according to societal expectations. It's not necessarily because they want to, it's because of what they're supposed to do, or their neighbors are doing, or keeping up with the Joneses, or whatever it is. And it's not necessarily because it makes them or their family happy. So I know on social media, everyone posts the pictures and everyone says how wonderful they are. I have learned that the more someone brags about their wonderful life, the more unhappy that person actually is. So if you have that friend or that person on social, or the popular mom in the PTA, whoever she is, if they keep going on about how wonderful their life is, don't aspire to be like them, because 9 times out of 10, it's like they're trying to convince themselves how wonderful their life is. It's really not. The happiest people don't brag about stuff. They just live their life because they're happy with what they have and they don't need to tell other people. So just be aware of trying to imitate and be like other people first of all, again, why are you doing that? Does that resonate with you? Is that something you want? If you're doing it because you're like, oh, well, Jessica wears this and she does this and she seems really happy. She seems really happy, but is she? Right? And it's always that what works for one person doesn't work for another. So just be really aware and not to fall into these traps of why you think you need to do something. Right? Because a lot of people out there are trying to fake it till they make it, and you might be aspiring to be like someone who has a really crappy life on the inside, right? So just really be aware. That's why it's so, so, so important to sit back and ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Is it because I love it? My kids love it. It brings me joy. It resonates with me. This is how I want to live my life. Or is it something else? If it's something else, you need to reevaluate. You need to find that way of how you're going to form a new habit of whether it's saying no or just doing something different, and knowing people are going to question you and having a response ready for it, and just keep doing it. Have that reward system ready. And the smallest anything, like even if you start out and you say 10 seconds of holding firm and sticking with it, and then you kind of fall off the wagon, that's okay. You held firm for 10 seconds. Celebrate those 10 seconds and then just aim to do a little bit better tomorrow. Okay? So it's always about celebrating no matter what you did, how little it was still more than you did yesterday. It was still an extra step. It was still consistency in at least trying to make this new habit. So never get down on yourself, never judge yourself. It As long as you're trying to do it and giving it your best, that's all we can ask, and celebrate that. Okay? I hope that helps. I hope this all makes sense. Again, trying to explain all these non-tangibles and feelings, and they can be very interesting to explain, especially depending if your vocabulary is a little different than mine, trying to relay that to everyone so everyone gets it. Sometimes it does get me, so I hope I've explained it well enough that everyone can understand that. And definitely let me know if you have done stuff like this, what you did, how it worked for you, like inspire others to do the same. Leave something in the comments. Definitely, you can reach out to me, comment, find me if you're on LinkedIn, DM me. I am on Facebook, but like, you can reach out if you want. I'm always happy to help if this is something you need help with. It can be intimidating and it can be a lot to do on your own, but yeah, just make sure you have that reward system and consistency. And yeah, guys, like, just remember, why are you doing it? Make sure it brings you, your family, um, joy. Like I say, if it brings you joy, but if it brings your loved ones joy, which brings you joy, that's still bringing you joy. Make sure it resonates with you. You feel great about doing it. And then really, that you've nailed something that is true to you. All right, guys, I know it was a bit longer today. I apologize, but I really want to get this across. It's super, super important. And I feel like it's one of those where if you're not currently working on this, you need to start. It's a game changer, it is huge. Definitely. So, have a very wonderful rest of your Thursday and have a great